Welcome to English Through Ideas podcast, where we learn English through powerful ideas.
We are so glad you're here with us.
Yeah, so I want you to imagine you are sitting in a room and someone offers you a choice between two different puzzles.
Okay. A choice.
Right. If you choose the easy puzzle, you'll solve it super quickly. And, everyone in the room will tell you that you were a genius.
Sounds pretty good.
It does. But if you choose the hard puzzle, you will probably struggle. You might even look foolish. But you will learn a completely new way to solve problems.
So you have to risk looking bad to learn something new.
Exactly. And the choice you make in that imagined room, it actually predicts your future salary, the path of your career, and even the health of your relationships.
It's kind of wild to think about.
It really is. So today we are taking a deep dive into a summary of Dr. Carol Dweck's book, Mindset. And our mission is to understand the invisible set of rules in your head, the rules that dictate how you respond to failure and criticism.
Because those internal rules, they govern almost every decision we make. The core concept we are looking at is that your underlying belief about your own ability to change, well, it acts as a physical limit on your life.
Like a ceiling.
Exactly. A ceiling. It will either fuel your future and drive you to learn new skills, or it will freeze your potential. It'll keep you trapped in this need to constantly prove you are already good enough.
So let me ask you, the listener, have you ever quit a language class or maybe stopped playing a sport just because you felt awkward?
Oh, I'm sure we all have.
Right. Or, have you ever stayed quiet in a meeting because asking a question might make you look a little uninformed?
It's a very common feeling.
Yeah. So we are going to look at how to rewrite that specific belief, the one that makes us fear looking stupid. But to get there, we need to map out the two operating systems that dictate human behavior.
Right. So the research separates these operating systems into two distinct categories. The first one is the fixed mindset. This is the assumption that your intelligence, your character, and your creative abilities are just, well, they're static. They are set in stone. You inherit a certain amount of talent, and that is all you will ever have.
So it's like saying, I am a math person or I am not.
Exactly. You are a natural leader or you're a follower. There's no in-between.
Well, if I am operating on that fixed system, then every single task I do is this high-stakes measurement of my permanent worth.
Yes.
Like if I fail a test, it doesn't just mean I had a bad day. It means I am permanently unintelligent.
And that is the tragic part of a fixed mindset. It literally forces you to avoid effort. In this state of mind, trying hard is actually terrifying.
Wait, trying hard is terrifying. Why?
Because if you are a natural genius, you shouldn't have to study or practice, right? So if you try your hardest and you still fail, you have no excuses left. You have exposed your permanent limit.
Oh, wow. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, to protect their ego, people with a fixed mindset will only do tasks where they are guaranteed to look flawless. Or they will find someone else to blame when things go wrong.
Which brings us to the alternative operating system, right?
Yeah.
The growth mindset.
Yes, the growth mindset.
In this framework, your basic qualities are really just your starting point. It is the belief that abilities can be cultivated, grown through effort, good strategies, and getting help from others.
Right, so in a growth mindset, failure is completely stripped of its emotional weight.
It doesn't hurt as much.
Exactly. It is no longer a permanent label on your identity. Failure is simply neutral data. It's just feedback telling you that your current strategy did not work, and you just need to adjust your approach.
The sources mention Michael Jordan as the ultimate example of this.
Oh, yeah, the classic story.
Right, and it's common knowledge that he was actually cut from his high school basketball team. But what is interesting is how he reacted. He didn't just get mad and quit.
Because a fixed mindset player would have done exactly that.
Yeah, they would have said, the coach is an idiot, or I guess I am just not meant to play basketball, just to protect their ego. But Jordan used the rejection as specific feedback about his weaknesses.
He looked at what he was missing.
Yeah. He spent the entire next year systematically practicing the exact skills he was lacking.
He separated his identity from his current skill level. And when you do that, the path to improvement becomes obvious. It is just a matter of putting in the hours.
Okay, let's unpack this. It sounds like we are comparing hardware to software.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so a fixed mindset treats the brain like a piece of hardware you buy at a store.
Right.
If it doesn't have enough memory out of the box, you are just out of luck.
Right.
But a growth mindset treats the brain like software. It might have bugs, but you can always, download an update.
What's fascinating here is that the software analogy captures the reality of the brain perfectly. However, The trap we often fall into is thinking we are purely one or the other.
Like we are either 100% fixed or 100% growth.
Exactly. We assume we are entirely growth-oriented because, hey, we listen to deep dives on psychology. But we all carry both mindsets.
That makes sense.
You might be running growth software for your career, constantly asking for feedback and taking difficult projects, but simultaneously, you might be running fixed software in your social life.
Oh, like telling yourself, I am just socially awkward. I cannot make small talk at parties.
Yes, exactly that.
That really shifts how I view my own habits. We put ourselves in these rigid little boxes based on past experiences. But if our brains are naturally capable of software updates, why do we default to the fixed mindset so often?
Well,
It feels like we are programmed to be terrified of making mistakes really early on.
we are programmed early on, usually by the education system and honestly well-meaning parents. This brings us to a really critical area of the research, how these mindsets are installed during childhood.
Okay.
We live in a culture that just loves to label children. We call them gifted or fast learners or naturals.
Yeah. I used to think praising a child's intelligence was the absolute best way to build their confidence.
And many people do.
But the sources highlight this famous puzzle study that completely destroys that idea. As I understand it, researchers gave kids a puzzle and then separated them into two groups based on how they were praised.
Right. And the design of that study reveals exactly how a fixed mindset is born. Half the children were praised for their innate intelligence. The researchers told them, wow, you did really well. You must be so smart.
Okay, and the other group?
The other half were praised for their process. They were told, wow, you did really well. You must have worked really hard.
Wait, so when a parent tells a child they are a natural genius, they're actually doing more harm than good?
Sadly.
Because if I follow the logic, the kids praised for being smart are suddenly holding a very fragile identity. You just handed them a trophy for being a genius. Now, their primary goal is going to be protecting that trophy, which means avoiding anything that might make them look stupid. It feels like giving someone a trophy that they become terrified of breaking.
That is a perfect analogy, and the data proves your assumption. When the researchers offered the children a second puzzle, giving them a choice between a safe, easy puzzle and a difficult one, the results were drastically different.
Let me guess.
Go ahead.
The kids praised for intelligence chose the easy one.
Overwhelmingly, yes. They refused the opportunity to learn because struggling would destroy their new label of being smart.
That is so sad.
Meanwhile, the kids praised for their effort enthusiastically chose the hard puzzle. Their value was tied to trying hard, so a difficult puzzle was a chance to prove their worth.
But doesn't this push us into the territory of, like, participation trophies?
How do you mean?
Well, if we stop telling kids they are smart and just praise them for trying, aren't we rewarding mediocrity? I mean, not every effort deserves praise if the strategy is terrible.
That is a vital distinction, and it is where the growth mindset is often misunderstood. It is not about praising empty effort. Like, if a child is studying for a math test by staring out the window, you don't praise them just for sitting at the desk. You praise the strategy, the focus, and the resilience.
Got it.
You say, I like how you tried 3 different ways to solve that problem until you found the right one. You tie the praise to a repeatable action, not a genetic gift.
You know, the sources show a great practical application of this in a low-income school district.
Yes, the grading system changed.
Right. Instead of handing out failing grades on tests, the teachers changed the grading system entirely. If a student didn't pass, the grade they received was simply the phrase, "not yet."
Consider the psychological shift of those 2 words.
That's huge.
Fail is a locked door. It means the assessment is over and you lack the required hardware.
Right.
But not yet means you are simply at mile marker 5 of a 10-mile journey. By shifting the focus to strategy and using not yet, this school saw their students' motivation and test scores absolutely skyrocket.
We can clearly see how this starts in the classroom. But eventually, these kids grow up, they enter the workforce, and I imagine that if you spend your first 20 years terrified of losing your smart label, you don't magically change when you get a job.
Definitely not.
How does this fixed mindset operate when careers and salaries are on the line?
It creates a culture of fear. When a leader has a fixed mindset, they believe employees are either talented or useless.
Oh, that's toxic.
Very. Because of this, the employees become terrified of making errors, they hide their mistakes, they blame other departments, and they focus solely on looking flawless.
So no one actually takes any risks.
Right. The leader ends up surrounded by people who just echo their opinions, yes men, because no one wants to risk bringing up a problem and being labeled as incompetent.
I see this all the time. Corporate structures often seem designed to punish mistakes, which naturally reinforces a fixed mindset. So how does a growth leader dismantle that hierarchy?
Well, we can look at the sources.
Right, the sources mentioned Jack Welch, the former CEO of General Electric. But what did he actually do differently?
Welch fundamentally changed the reward structure at GE. A typical fixed mindset corporation rewards the person who hits their quarterly target, even if they destroy their team's morale to do it.
Sure.
Welch started firing executives who hit their numbers but refused to develop their employees.
Wow, that's a big shift.
It is. He heavily rewarded leaders who mentored their teams and openly discussed their own failures. He removed the penalty for being imperfect, which created immense psychological safety. Under his leadership, GE's value grew from $14 billion to over $400 billion.
Because when people aren't wasting 80% of their energy trying to look perfect, they can actually use that energy to innovate.
Exactly.
And we see the same mechanism in elite sports. We look at someone like Serena Williams and assume her success is pure physical destiny. But the sources point out that her father trained her mind to process failure differently long before she was a champion.
Yes, her father would actually celebrate her attempting a highly difficult shot and missing, more than he would celebrate her winning a point with a safe, easy shot.
That's incredible.
He was programming her software to value the edge of her abilities. We see the same pattern with Kobe Bryant.
Oh, the basketball player.
Right. During his rookie season in the NBA, he famously shot 4 air balls in a critical playoff game.
An air ball is when the ball completely misses the hoop, right?
Yes, a very embarrassing miss. A fixed mindset player would have lost their confidence completely. But Bryant spent the entire offseason shooting until the sun came up, specifically focusing on his leg strength, which caused the air balls.
So what does this all mean? Does having a growth mindset mean anyone can become a billionaire CEO or win Wimbledon just by adopting this software and trying really hard?
It is crucial we don't romanticize the concept. A growth mindset does not deny the reality of different starting points.
Right, we aren't all the same.
We all have different physical attributes, economic backgrounds, and systemic opportunities. What the growth mindset states is that your starting point does not determine your finish line.
So it is about maximizing your personal capacity rather than guaranteeing you will be the best in the world.
Exactly.
Success shifts from winning effortlessly to getting better consistently.
Yes.
I can understand applying that to a tennis serve or a quarterly sales goal. But let's look at a much more complicated arena. Here's where it gets really interesting. What happens when we apply this to the people we love? How do these mindsets function in romantic relationships?
That's a great question. Relationships are often the hardest area to maintain a growth mindset because they are so emotionally charged.
Right.
In relationship, a fixed mindset manifests as the belief that people cannot change. You view your partner as a finished product. Therefore, any deep flaw they have is permanent.
And if they are a finished product, then any serious argument means the product is defective. Like, if we disagree on something fundamental, a fixed mindset tells me we are simply incompatible.
Right.
There is no room for the relationship to stretch.
Precisely. It creates a dynamic where every conflict is a threat to the relationship's existence.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. In contrast, a growth mindset views a relationship as an ongoing collaboration. Conflict is not a sign of failure. It is simply a classroom where you learn how to communicate better.
The sources detail the story of a couple named Lisa and Mark. They had been married for 5 years and were locked in a cycle of blame.
Right, the blame game.
It was constantly, you never appreciate me, or you always ignore my needs. They were acting like lawyers building a case against each other.
They were treating each other's behavior as permanent personality traits, but through adopting a growth mindset, they fundamentally changed how they viewed their partner.
How so?
They stopped seeing each other as broken individuals who were failing a test and started seeing each other as people who were becoming. Instead of attacking the other person's character, they became curious about the mechanics of their arguments.
That word, becoming, is vital. But this feels like it requires extreme vulnerability. I mean, it is easy to say, I am still learning how to use this new software at work. It is incredibly painful to say, I am still learning how to not be defensive
Yeah.
when you tell me I hurt your feelings.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it does require vulnerability. You have to lower your shield and admit that you are an imperfect partner.
Yeah.
But that shared vulnerability is exactly what builds emotional safety. When both people admit they are works in progress, the need to defend your ego disappears.
But I want to clarify a boundary here,
Mhm.
because if my partner is treating me terribly, lying to me, or disrespecting me, I shouldn't just sit there and say, well, I have a growth mindset. They are on a learning journey. I will just wait for them to improve.
Oh, absolutely not.
Where is the line between a growth mindset and tolerating toxic behavior?
Yeah. That boundary is non-negotiable. A growth mindset is not a tool to justify abuse or consistent disrespect. The framework only works if both partners are actively engaged in the process of growing.
Okay, that is an important point.
A growth mindset means you believe change is possible. It does not mean you are obligated to suffer while waiting for someone who refuses to do the work.
That makes perfect sense. The system requires dual participation. So we have mapped out how this software dictates our learning, our careers, and our love lives. The final question we need to answer for our listener is the most practical one.
How to change it?
Exactly. How do we actually rewrite this software? If I have been running a fixed mindset for 30 years, how do I install the update?
Well, the ability to change is grounded in a biological reality known as neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity.
Yes, meaning your brain physically rewires itself based on repeated thoughts and actions regardless of your age. The first step to leveraging this is learning to identify your specific triggers.
By triggers, you mean the specific environments or situations that cause my brain to panic and revert to fixed mindset self-defense.
Yes, a trigger wakes up your inner critic. It might be receiving critical feedback from your boss, or seeing a peer achieve something you wanted, or even just attempting a new hobby and feeling clumsy.
The sources share a few case studies on this. There is Mark, a CEO, whose trigger was public imperfection.
Right.
When his team made a mistake, his fixed mindset convinced him it made him look like an incompetent leader. So his defense mechanism was to quietly micromanage and fix their work himself.
Which slowly destroyed his team's confidence.
Exactly.
But Mark learned to observe that trigger. When he felt the panic of a team error, he stopped reacting automatically. He forced himself to pause, step back, and ask his team, what can we build on together to fix this, instead of doing it for them?
Then there is James, a coder who dropped out of school because he believed he was fundamentally bad at math. Math was his trigger.
A very common one.
Yeah. When he finally took a free coding class years later, his first failed quiz sent his brain into a fixed mindset spiral. It literally screamed, I told you we aren't smart enough for this.
But he stopped it.
Right, he actively intercepted that thought. He told himself, I'm not bad at this. I am just a beginner.
Yeah.
By simply changing the narrative, he kept studying and eventually became a lead developer.
We also see Maya, a writer who experienced constant rejection from publishers. Instead of letting her fixed mindset declare her a terrible writer, she instituted what she called failure reviews.
Failure reviews.
Yeah, she forced herself to read the rejections objectively to find patterns in the feedback. She used the data to improve her manuscript, ultimately becoming a best-selling author.
I want to distill this into a mental framework I can use today. Let's say I'm working on a complex project, I hit a wall, and my brain tells me I am out of my depth and should quit. I need a fire drill for my brain.
Okay, a fire drill.
Based on these examples, it seems like a three-step process. First, I need to name the trigger. I literally say to myself, my fixed mindset is panicking right now because the work is hard.
Yes, naming it immediately separates your identity from the emotion. You are not a failure. You are simply experiencing a moment of frustration.
Right.
The second step is to pause and observe the thought without judgment. You ask yourself, why is this threatening me? Am I afraid of what my colleagues will think if I miss this deadline?
And once I understand the fear, the third step is to actively choose a growth response. Instead of agreeing with the thought that I can't do this, I append the word yet. I tell myself I cannot solve this problem yet, but I can find a new strategy.
It sounds simple, but practicing that fire drill under stress takes time.
I imagine it does.
To build the muscle, the sources recommend daily practices. Keep a brief journal where you write down one moment each day where you felt defensive and analyze why. Speak your process out loud, literally say, mistakes are just data.
And conduct your own failure reviews at the end of the week. Look at what went wrong with curiosity rather than cruelty.
Exactly.
It is remarkable How much of our potential is bottled up simply because we are terrified of looking like we don't know everything?
Hmm.
We have explored how treating your brain like expandable software unlocks your capacity.
Yes, we have.
We understand why praising strategy builds resilient kids, while praising innate genius builds fragile egos. We have seen how sports and business thrive on psychological safety, and how choosing to see your partner as becoming can transform a relationship.
The architecture of your reality is truly built by the mindset you choose to adopt.
The only thing standing between the person you are today and the person you are capable of becoming is the invisible story you keep telling yourself.
That's powerful. I will leave you with a final thought to explore on your own. What would happen if, starting tomorrow morning, you stopped treating your life as a final exam you have to pass to prove your worth? What if you treated your life as a giant, messy laboratory? In a laboratory, there is no such thing as failure. There are only experiments, and every mistake simply provides you with the exact data you need to design a better experiment tomorrow.
Thank you for learning with English through ideas. If you enjoyed this podcast, subscribe for more ideas, more English, and more growth.